Begin today the Gemara towards the bottom of Samachayim at Beis, where it says Amar Abaya, about 8-9 lines from the bottom of the Yamut. Here the Gemara really starts a new inyan, since it brought up before a shaila whether Kidushin could be done through an Eid Echad, or you need two Eidim for Kidushin. So here the Gemara brings up a general inyan regarding trusting one Eid in different areas, not regarding Kidushin, regarding different areas. And in a situation where one Eid says testimony, and the person that he's saying Eidus about is quiet. He's not protesting what the Eid Echad is saying. Do we trust this Eid Echad? Amar Abaye said, Amar loy Eid Echad. And Eid Echad tells the person, Achalta chelev. You ate forbidden fats, and therefore you have to bring a carbon for this. V'halosh oisik. And the person hears what the Eid Echad says, and he's quiet. Neman. So the Eid Echad will be believed, and the reason is because here you're not relying just on the Eid Echad, but the fact that the person is quiet. This is how many Rishonim learn the pshat in this, Taisvis here, that the fact that you're quiet is a certain haidah. We have the klal of shtika haidah, that if you're quiet, you're admitting and agreeing to what the Eid Echad is saying. So if you're not saying anything, so then you have to bring a carbon. Tana tuna, there's a Tana in a Braisa that says this as well. Eid Echad says you ate chelev. And the person is protesting, is saying, no, it's not true, I did not eat chelev. Then potter, he'll be potter from bringing a carbon. So what do we see here from this Braisa? The reason why he doesn't have to bring a carbon is because he's protesting and saying that he did not eat the chelev. However, if this person is quiet, mehemen, so then we do believe the Eid Echad, because as I mentioned, shtika kaidah. Abaye said that this applies also to another case. The Eid Echad says that the produce that you have that was all tahar, that was all pure, I know it became tummy. And the person that he's saying this to is quiet. So again, Nema, because he's quiet and he's not protesting against the word of the Eid Echad, so the Eid Echad is believed. The Tana Tuna, again we have a raya for this, what the Tana says. Eid Echad nitmu. And Eid Echad says that your things became tummy. Nitmu. And the person is protesting and saying, no, it's not true, I know it did not become tummy. Then potter. Some is potter here, the other gears over here in the Gemara is that tahir. Right, it'll be tar, because if he says it's not tameh, so then there's no reason to trust what the Eid Echad says. Again, usually the klal in Torah is an Eid Echad is not believed. Eid Echad is believed to cause a person to make a shvuah in money matters. There are certain exceptions by a saita, and Eid Echad is believed, but otherwise, usually an Eid Echad is not believed. The chiddush of what Abai is saying over here is, if the person is quiet and he's accepting what the Eid Echad says, so then the Eid Echad is believed. So again, the Gemara says, Taimeh the Omar loy. The reason why the Eid Echad is not believed is because this person says that what the Eid Echad is saying is not true. Ha ishtik, but if he's quiet, mehemen, then we'll accept the words of the Eid Echad. A third case where Abaye says this applies is Amar Abaye Amaloi Eid Echad, and Eid Echad comes and tells him Shercha Nirba, the ox that you have is also to be brought as a carbon because Nirba, it had a relation with a human being. And in such a case, it's also for a carbon. Now Rashi here points out that the relevance of this is only for the carbon. Otherwise, there is actually a halacha that a shar that has a relation with a human being, is you have to give it skila. But for that, for sure, you would need two edim. So that's not what we're talking about over here. We're talking over here about it being usher to be used for a carbon. The halash shaisik, the owner of this ox is quiet. Nemon, again, the Eid Echad is believed. The Tana Tuna, the Tana says this as well. V'shenevda boya veda. When you have an animal that an aveda was done with it, or this could be aveda zara or another aveda, or that this animal killed a human being, and only an Eid Echad is saying so. So this is an animal that killed with an Eid Echad is a sheira niskal. Or the owner himself is saying so. Nemon, he's believed. So the Gemara explains what does it mean when it says al pi Eid Echad, and then afterwards it says that the owner is saying so. Hi, al pi Eid Echad heichi dami. What does it mean when it says that the Eid Echad is saying this? If the owner is admitting to the Eid Echad, meaning the Bailam is clearly saying, not just quiet, the Bailam are clearly saying that what the Eid Echad is saying is true. Hainu al pi ha-Bailam. It's the exact same thing when it says al pi ha-Bailam, that the Bailam is saying so. So the pshat in this Brais is the shasik. that when the Braisa says Eid Echad, it means the Eid Echad is saying that the animal did an Aveda, that it's a Nirba or another Aveda, and the Bailam are quiet, Shtike, and the Shtike is Kahidah. And the Shtike that it's talking about over here, actually, the Mefarshim spell out, is not necessarily that the Shtike Kahidah is that the Bailam being quiet means that he's Mamish being Maida. Usually the concept of Shtike Kahidah means that it's Mamish considered to be a Hidah. Shtike is equivalent to saying yes. Right? In money matters, this works that way. Over here, the Shtike is, as long as the Bailam is quiet, why is the Bailam being quiet? Because what the Eid Echad is saying is very possible that it happened, and therefore the Bailam can't contradict him. So even if it's not mamish a full Eidah, but the very fact that the Bailam is quiet means that the Bailam know that it's probable that what the Eid says is true, and therefore we trust the Eid Echad. Okay, so now Abaye here brought this halacha regarding 3 different cases. So the Gemara explains why he spells out the same halacha regarding all 3 cases. It's necessary to say it in each one of these cases that when the Bailam are quiet, that we believe the Eid Echad. If would bring the first case which spoke about regarding Chaylev, that the Eid is saying that you ate Chaylev and you have to bring a carbon, I would say, Ilav the Kimle benafshe the Avad, if not for the fact that the owner, the man over here, knows that it's true, that he ate this Chaylev, so then the Avad Chulim Bazare, Loy have a maisi. He would be bringing chulin, or the achal is another gear say. He would be bringing chulin into the azara. If not for the fact that this is true that he ate chaylev, then what is with his carbon? He's being over an isser by bringing chulin into the azara. So if he's being quiet, so it must be that he knows that what the Eid Echad is saying is true, and therefore he's ready to bring this carbon. That's why the Bailam being quiet is very significant. Someone comes along and tells someone, your produce became Tomei. In such a case, the fact that the owner is quiet and is not protesting against the Eid Echad is not such a strong proof that what the Eid Echad is saying is true. Because what we could say is, hi the Shasik, the reason why the person is not arguing with the Eid Echad, he's quiet, the Savar, he thinks to himself, it's not so terrible if my produce became Tomei. Even if I don't protest on the Eid Echad, what's going to happen? So he says, Chazili b'mei tumasai. So I'll eat this produce in the times when I'm tamei, in a situation where I'm tamei. Or some even say that even when a person is tired, he doesn't have to eat things that are tired. He can eat things that are tamei as well. If it's a Yisrael and he's not going into the Beis HaMikdash. So the fact that something became tamei is not necessarily the end of the world for him. So therefore he's not arguing with the Eid Echad. But it doesn't mean, not a proof that he's quiet, that what the Eid Echad said is true. That's why Abaye had to say the Kiddush in this case as well. And then, v'yashmin and ha, if it would say just this case, I would say, mishum dekamafsidle b'mei ta'arase. There is some kind of loss that he has here, that if he wants to keep his tara, he won't be able to eat this produce here. Aval shoyre nirba. The fact that someone comes along and says that your shoyr, your ox, had a relation, and therefore it can't be brought as a carbon, here the person is not reacting to the Eid Echad because he says, I have no loss in this at all. He says to himself, all the oxes that I have are not intended to be brought as a carbon. So what is this Eid Echad saying? I won't be able to bring it as a carbon. Okay, I never thought of bringing it as a carbon. So yeah, he doesn't find it necessary to react to the Eid Echad. So it's not a proof that what the Eid Echad is saying is true. So therefore, Tzricha, Abaye had to come and say that even in this case, if the Bailam are quiet, it is a proof that what the Eid Echad is saying is true, and we accept what the Eid Echad says. Now the Gemara brings a 4th scenario regarding this Eid Echad, and here there's a machlokes about this. So the Shaila was asked, Ishtoi zinsa be'Eid Echad. What happens in a case if an Eid Echad comes along and says that your wife had a relation with someone else as the Neishis Ish, and therefore she's asa to you now? That's the halacha if a woman, Ishis Ish, has a relation with someone else, b'mezid, she may not go back to her husband. And v'shaisik, and the husband here is quiet, he doesn't react to this. Mahu, what's the halacha here? Should we say the same that we said before, that the Eid Echad is believed? So Abaye says Neman. Just like we said before, Abaye himself said before in all the cases that when the person is quiet, the Eid Echad is believed. In this case as well, the Eid Echad is going to be believed. However, Rava disagrees, and Rava says, Einay Neman. No, in this case, the Eid Echad is not going to be believed. Over here, Rava holds when it comes to this halacha of situation of znos to asar isha on the husband, this is a davisha be'erva, and when it comes to a davisha be'erva, you have to have 2 edim. Over here, the Eid Echad is not going to be believed. Abaye really also agrees to this concept of Dovish Sheberva, that you have to have two Eidim. But over here, because Abaye before said the concept that when a person is quiet, he's being Maida, so we have the klal, a person could always aser on himself something, even if there's no proper proof for it. If you come along and say that something is aser, so then shavya anafshei chaticha de yisura. So you for yourself, you make that aser. So therefore Abaye holds that it's going to be aser for you. Rav, however, holds the Bailam being quiet is not significant, doesn't mean anything. He's being quiet because he just doesn't know. He's not going to argue with the Eid he has no idea. Right? So in the other cases before, Abaye held that when the person was quiet, Rava that is. Rava in the previous cases that the Gemara brought, the fact that the person is quiet is some sort of a proof. It's a proof that what the Eid Echad is saying is true. But over here, the person is quiet because he has no idea. Someone comes and says his wife was Mizana. He has no idea. So the fact that he's quiet doesn't prove anything. If it doesn't prove anything, so then his wife is going to be mutter to him. You're going to need two Eidim to aser a woman on the husband. You don't have two Eidim, so she's going to be mutter. So here the Gemara is going to bring a lengthy discussion in the source of Abaye's opinion and Rava's opinion. First, Abaye brings the source for this. Amar Abaye. Abaye says, Mina minallah. From where do I know what I say that just with one aid and the husband being quiet is enough to ask this woman on the husband? There was this individual that was blind. He used to come and teach braises in front of Shmuel. One day, he was late, he didn't come. He didn't come. So Shmuel sent a shliach, a messenger, to go and bring him to find out what happened to him. So the shliach went to find this individual, this blind individual on one road. So this blind individual came to Shmuel on a different road. And the shliach comes back to Shmuel. Omar, he tells Shmuel, or he tells this person, Ishtoi zinsa. I went to your house, and you left your house, and what I found is that your wife was mizana with someone. So here you have a shliach, which is an eid echad, saying that this person's wife was mizana. So asla kamei de Shmuel. So this blind individual that heard this report from an eid echad that his wife was mizana, he came to Shmuel. Amalei. So Shmuel tells this person, Imehemelach, if you believe this eid echad, zilafka. So go send your wife out. You can't live with her anymore. If you don't believe him, loy tapik. So then you don't have to. So what does this mean over here? So here, Abaye understood what Shmuel said exactly like his opinion, that over here, if he's going to be quiet and you believe the Eid Echad, so then you have to send your wife out. So my love, don't you think what Shmuel meant to say is, if you believe this Eid Echad here, this Shliach that I sent, the Lav Gazlanahu, he's not a person that's Pasaledis, he's not a thief. A thief is someone you can't trust at all. So then, if you're quiet and you believe him, you have no way of arguing with him, so then your wife will be asr. If he's a person that's pasal eidos, so then we don't have to trust him at all. Okay, so this is a raya to what Abaye said. Rav will answer you, that's not what Shmuel meant. The Shmuel meant something different. If this person is so trusted to you, mamish like two Eidim, when he comes and tells you that this is what your wife did, you say to yourself, yeah, I know that this is true. I know that this was happening. And you believe him like two Eidos. You know yourself that this is 100% true. Then zilapka. Then go and divorce your wife or get rid of her. But viloi, if the Eid Echad is telling you that this happened and you have no clue to know that this is true, you have no suspicion about this, and you have no reason to believe him, and so even though you have one Eid that's saying this, lo tafka. You don't have to stand there away. So Adarab, Rava holds that Shmuel was saying exactly like Rava's opinion, that just the words of an Eid Echad is not good enough to force a person to send out his wife.
But it is an Eid Echad.
Huh?
It is an Eid Echad.
Yeah, okay, but if the person though knows, what he's saying is, if you know that this is true, if a person himself knows that something is true, he doesn't need to aid him bepile for this. If he knows for a fact that his wife is Mizana, he's going to have to send her out without to aid him, or even without an Eid Echad either. So what Shmuel was saying is, if you believe and know that what the Eid Echad is saying is 100% true, so then even if you don't have to aid him, you're going to have to send her out. Okay, so this proof from what Shmuel Paskin is not a proof for Abaye. So Abaye he brings another proof. Mina minala, from where can I bring a proof to what I said? The Tanya, because we have the following story. And this is a long story, which is a big tragedy. Story with Yanai HaMelech. And from the end of the story, we'll see a raya to what Abaye said. Ma'aseh b'Yanai HaMelech. There was a story with Yanai HaMelech. Now, Yanai HaMelech came from the Chashmonaim, and he lived towards the end of the time of the second Beis HaMikdash. So what was the story with him? Shahalach leKuchlis shebimidbar. He went to an area that was called Kuchlis, that was in a desert area. V'kibesham shishim krachim, and he conquered there 60 big cities. So he went and he had a very big success in his battles. On his way back from these battles, he was very, very jubilant and very excited. And he invited all of the Chachamim, Amalem. He told them as follows: Aviseinu, our ancestors, they would eat these maluchim. Maluchim are some kind of vegetables, cheap vegetables. They were very poor, and that's what they ate. This is hundreds of years before, when they were busy building the Beis HaMikdash. So he said to them, now look how rich we are. We conquered all these countries and we have all this success. But in order to commemorate what our ancestors did and to thank the Eibishter, let's also sit down and eat these same vegetables, as to commemorate what happened with where our ancestors were. They brought golden tables, because they were very rich at this point, and they brought these maluchim on these golden tables, and they were eating. They were celebrating the big success and the bracha and the riches that the Eibishter gave Yidden at that time in history. Now, there was a person there, a man, a letz. How do I translate letz in English? A scoffer. Leiv ra, with a very evil heart. Ubliyal, person without any yoke of heaven upon him. Ve'alaza ben pu'ira shemai, and his name was Alaza ben Pu'ira. You're going to see over here how evil of an individual this was. Vayeme Alaza ben Pu'ira liYanai HaMelech. This Alaza ben Pu'ira says to Yanai HaMelech, King Yanai, Libam shal Perushim Alecha. The heart of the Perushim, which refers to the tzaddikim, to the chachamim that are here with you, they have a heart against you. They're not with you. So the king asks him, what should I do to figure this out, that they're actually against me? How could I see this? So this Elazar ben Pira tells, Yanai HaMelech, Hakim lehem b'tzitz shebeinei necha. Put on the tzitz of the Kohen Gadol between your eyes, and take the Kohuna Gedolah for yourself. Now, he was a descendant of Kohanim. As I mentioned, he was a king from the Chashmonaim, which were Kohanim. So he tells him, put the tzitz between your eyes and have them stand up in front of you because you're wearing the tzitz. So Heikim lahem b'tzitz shebeinei einav, you put on the tzitz between his eyes. Now Rashi here says that it's actually not usher to wear the tzitz even in a time when you're not doing the Aveda outside the Beis HaMikdash. This was something that was mentioned earlier in the Masechta. When it comes to the garments of a Kohen Gadol or a Kohen Bechlal, since it's impossible to take off the garments the moment you're done the Aveda and not have a naw from it after you're done the Aveda, so if you wear it after you're done the Aveda, there's no Me'ilah. Even though it's not supposed to be done, but it's not. There's no Me'ilah for this. Okay, so Me'ilah means when you're misusing an item of Hekdesh. So he went and put on this tzitz. Yanai HaMelech put on the tzitz, basically making the point that I am the Kohen Gadol. Only the Kohen Gadol wears the tzitz. There was one of the elders of the Chachamim that was there, Yehuda ben Gadadiah Shemai, and his name was Yehuda ben Gadadiah. Yehuda ben Gadadiah leYanai HaMelech. So he said to Yanai HaMelech, Yanai HaMelech, King Yanai, Rav Locha Kesa Malchus. It's more than enough the fact that you have the crown of kingdom. Hanach Kesa Kohuna Lazare Shalarin. Leave the crown of the Kohuna for the descendants of Aaron. Now the Gemara clarifies immediately what this means. It wasn't Yanai himself a descendant of Kainim. He was from the Chashmonaim. Shahayu Aimrim, because it was said about the mother of Yanai that Imai Nishbis b'Meidim, that his mother was captured in Meidim. Meidim was one of the places where the Chashmonaim and the Yevonim had their battles. And it was said that his mother was captured. And the halacha is, once a woman is captured, there's a suspicion that she had a relation with a guy, and therefore she's asa to a kain. So therefore, the child that's born is a chalal. So Yanai is pasul. So now Vayevukesh Adovar, they actually went and tried to find out this matter. Is it true? Did she get captured? Did she not get captured? V'loi nimtza. And they couldn't actually prove this. Which means that in the end, they couldn't prove that Yanai HaMelech would be pasul of being a Kohen Gadol. But nevertheless, because of this suspicion, they didn't want Yanai HaMelech to be a Kohen Gadol. But what happened? Vayibodlu Chachmi Yisrael bezam. The Chachmi Yisrael were separated from the king with anger. The king was very angry at them that here, Elazar ben Puira made his point, look, the Chachmi Yisrael don't like you. Now, this Elazar ben Puira was not done. Vayem Elazar ben Puira li Yanei HaMelech. He says to Yanei HaMelech, Yanei HaMelech, King Yanei, Hediyat Sheb Yisrael kach. A simple person amongst Yidden, if you treat him this way, so that can be expected that he's being treated in such a way against his honor. But kachudina, that is kachudina. This is the way he's expected to be treated. But va'ata melech, you're a king, the kohen gadol, and in addition, you're also a kohen gadol. Kach, this is how you're being treated, and you're not going to react to the fact that chachamim embarrass you. Kachudincha, this is your din. So Yanei Melech asks him, "Ma Esther, what should I do to the chachamim?" So Elazar ben Peter said, if you listen to my advice, you should murder all of them. So Yanei Melech asks, if what's going to be with Torah? Aren't they the ones that teach us Torah? So he answered, we have the Torah. The Torah scroll is here. It's wrapped up and it's in the corner. Whoever wants to come and learn Torah, even after you'll kill all the Chachmei Yisrael, we still have a Torah. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak miyad, at that point, nizrka boy apikorsis. Yanei HaMelech had a thought of apikorsis in him, that he was relying on the fact that you have the Torah Shebiksav available for anyone to learn. Because the Havelei Lemeimar, Yanei HaMelech should have responded to the advice of Elazar ben Puira, I can't kill all the Chachamim, because Tainach Torah Shebiksav. You have the Torah Shebiksav, but Torah Shebal Peh, the oral Torah, which is taught by the Chachamim, what's going to be with Torah if I'm going to kill all the Chachmei Yisrael? But he didn't answer that. So he had this thought of Apikorsis that we don't need the Chachamim, we don't need Torah Shebal Peh, Torah Shebiksav is good enough. Miyad immediately v'tutzatz hara al yidei Elazar ben Puira. So this terrible evil thought sprouted, came out. That's one pshat. Rashi says v'tutzatz, or another pshat is like it's like a fire that was burning through Elazar ben Puira, and vayargo kol Chachmei Yisrael. And Yanei HaMelech had all of the Chachmei Yisrael killed. And the whole world was completely desolate. There was no Chachmei Yisrael teaching Torah. Shimon ben Shatach, there was one that was left, and that was Shimon ben Shatach. Why was he saved? Because Shimon ben Shatach, Rashi brings here, was a brother-in-law of Yanei HaMelech. He was the brother of Yanei's wife, and she hit him, and he was saved. He began teaching the Torah Shebal Peh again, and brought back Torah to the way it was before. That's the story over here with Yanei HaMelech. Obviously a very big tragedy. And here, the Gemara is going to focus on the detail that was brought in the middle over here, that how did this all begin? Why did Chachamim not want him to become a Kohen Gadol? Because there was a suspicion that his mother was captured, and therefore this child is possible. The Gemara wants to understand, what was this suspicion based on? What exactly happened here? Hey Chidami, what's the story here? Huh? It says all Chachmei Yisrael, Kol Chachmei Yisrael. Could have been a very large number. Yeah. So what happened over here? If you're going to say they made an investigation regarding this. The Beitrei Omri Ishtabai. So first they found two Eidim that said that his mother was captured. But then, Ubeitrei Omri Lo Ishtabai. Then another two witnesses came and said that his mother was not captured, and that's why the story here is that they couldn't come to the bottom. It says that they didn't come to the conclusion that his mother was captured. But why would we, if there's two Eidim that are contradicting each other about this fact, so then my chaz is the Samcha Sahani, why would you rely on the two Eidim that say that his mother was not captured? Smei Chahani. You could rely on the two that say that she was captured. Meaning the Gemara is saying this becomes now a suffix. So how could the Baraisa say that they didn't find out anything? They found out that it's a major suffix. This is a real dot over here. And Rashi here actually adds an important point. Usually the cloud regarding such a kind of case, when you have two Eidim that are contradicting each other, is you go after the chazakah, the previous status. And over here, seemingly the mother has the status that she was kosher until she was captured. But Rashi says, since the discussion here is about the status of Yanai and not about the status of the mother, Yanai himself does not have a chazakah. He's born from his mother where there was a suffix about her status from the moment he's born. So if there's no chazakah about Yanai himself, and there's two Eidim where there's a contradiction about what the status of his mother is, so then shouldn't this be a suffix about Yanai? So why does the Brayso say it? They didn't find out anything. Ella says the Gemara, you must say what happened over here is.
Sophie came later. The Sophie. When he was born, it was a Sophie.
No. He was born after. He was born after this incident of his mother being captured. He was born afterwards. So there was never a chazaka about it. Ella says the Gemara, the case must be over here, be'ed echad. It must be that there was one aid that came and said that the mother was captured. And then, if an aid echad said so, you would rely on an aid echad. And the mother would be asa to her husband. And now the time, the kamak shali, and what must have happened over there is that then two aidim came along and contradicted this Eid Echad, and therefore the Brisa says that we have no evidence to say at all that there's any issue with the mother. But if two Eidim would not contradict what the Eid Echad says, Mehemen, then that Eid Echad would be believed. That's seemingly how we could explain the story. So therefore Abaya says, from here I see that if an Eid Echad comes and says that a woman is captured or that a woman was mizana with someone, that's enough to rely upon to aser this woman to the husband. Unless the husband is disagreeing with the Eid Echad. But the Rava will tell you there's no raya from the story. Lo'ilam trei. Really, what happened in the story is there were two Eidim that said that she was captured, and then there were two Eidim that contradicted that. But in what way did the other two Eidim contradict? That what the story was, be'edei hazama. First, there were two Eidim that came and said, we saw that your mother was captured. Then came another two groups of Eidim and were mazim. Hazama works differently. Hazama is not contradicting what the first two Eidim are saying. Hazama says, how could you say that you were there and saw that she was captured if you were with us in a different location? And the halacha by Hazama is that we only trust the second group and the first group is totally eliminated. So therefore, the Brisa says that they didn't find any trace of any issue with the mother.
Excuse me, what's Hazama?
Hazama is when you completely eradicate the first Eidim. I'm not sure what the English translation for the word Hazama is. It's a different type of contradiction. Usually when you contradict Eidim is, Eidim say A, and the second group of Eidim say, no, how could you say that this is what happened? We were there and we saw that it did not happen. Hazam is different. They're not saying we were there and we saw it did not happen. They say we were in a different location and you were with us in a different location. So they're not contradicting the actual story itself. They're just saying that the Eidim themselves were not there. In such a case, we accept the words of the second group of Eidim. So Achanami Beidi Hazam, and that's what it's talking about over here. Another option the Gemara said of what could have happened here. We could say like Rabbi Yitzchak said. Rabbi Yitzchak, what happened was Shivcha Hechnisa Tachtah. There were two Eidim that came and said, we saw that his mother was captured, and they brought him to the Goyim. But then another set of Eidim came and said, we saw that they smuggled out the mother, and instead they put a maidservant in her place, and she's the one that was captured. And really, Yana's mother was smuggled out, and she was saved. So once they had these two Eidim that said, the second group of Eidim are not contradicting what the first group is saying. They're just they're finishing off the story. The first group of Eidim only saw the beginning of the story, and they're saying, no, that really afterwards the mother was smuggled out. So therefore we trust what the second group of Eidim said. So this was all Abaye trying to prove his opinion. Now the Gemara brings how Rava tried to prove his opinion, that we do not trust an Eid Echad, that a wife should have to leave the husband. Amar Rava said, Minoah Minullah. What's my proof? The Tnan, we learned in the Mishnah the following machlekes. So this is actually a brisa regarding a mikveh. Amar Rab Shimon said, Ma'aseh b'megura shal diskis b'yavne. There was a story with a pool of water that belonged to Diskis in the city Yavne. So this was really a mikveh. Sha'isai medes b'cheskas shleima. The mikveh had a chazaka that it has the full amount of water and it's a kosher mikveh. So in other words, they measured it at a certain point, and it was a kosher mikveh. But then Umadudu came at a later point in time, and they measured this mikveh, v'nimtzis chaseira, and they found that it was missing. The amount of mikveh has to have 40 saw of water, of kosher water, and they found that it was missing, that it's possible. So kol taris shenasu al gaba. So what's with all the things that they purified, that they toivel in the mikveh in this period of time? What do we say? Do we have a suspicion that maybe the mikveh was already possible from before, or do we say that only now, when we discover the psul, it's possible? So Hayar Rav Tarfon said all those things that were toiveled from that time when they measured it, and it was tahir, until now when they discovered that it's possible, it's all tahir. Rabbi Akiva says that no, it's all tameh. That there was that time that we measured and it was tahir, but from that time going forward, we don't know when the water went missing. So it's all going to be a suffix. It's all going to be tummy. Now the Braisa here explains the basis of their machlekes. Amar Rab Tarfon, and Rab Tarfon said, mikveh zeh b'cheskas shalom u'ayimid. This mikveh, we checked it, and it has a chazakeh that it was full, that it had the amount of water it needs it. Misafik at the bala chasrei. Now, just because there's a doubt, now that we see that it's missing the water, and there's a time period where there's a doubt about this because of a suffix, you're going to say that we consider it to be puzzle, and everything that was tabled is puzzle. Al tachasrenu misafik. Out of a suffix, you can't consider it to be puzzle if there's a chazakah that it had the right amount of water in it. That was Rab Tarfon's reasoning. Rabbi Akiva had opposite reasoning. He said, no, Adam zeh b'cheskas tama yu'ayimid. Don't forget about looking at the chazakah of the mikveh. Look at the chazakah of the person that's toiveling in this mikveh. This person that's toiveling in the mikveh, or any keli, any object that you're toiveling here, has a chazakah that he's tameh. So misafik at the bala tare. Now he toiveled in a mikveh, which is a suffix if it's tired of tameh. You could be mitayed a person and take him out of a status of tumah based on the mikveh, which is, we don't even know if it's a good mikveh or not. Al tarena misafik. You can't purify a person with a mikveh which is a questionable mikveh. Rab Tarfon goes further on and says, I'll bring you a mashal for this. In other words, a source for this to compare to another halacha that everything is tar. Mashal ha'imid makriv al gab mizbeach. What this is compared to is a kayin that's being makriv on the mizbeach v'noidashu ben grusha ben chalutza. And you find out about him that he's actually a chalal. A chalal is a kayin pasul that's born from a mother that was a grusha or chalutza that got married to a kayin, and she's not allowed to marry a kayin, and the child is a chalal. It's not allowed to serve in the Beis HaMikdash. Now the halacha is that the aveda that he did before will be kosher. He's not allowed to do the aveda from here going forward, but any aveda that he did in the Beis HaMikdash beforehand will be kosher. So just like over there, I say that only from when you found out his aveda will be possible, but from before it'll be kosher. The same thing over here. Only when I found out that the mikveh is possible will it be possible, but anything from before will be tired. That's the comparison he said. Now this comparison of Rab Tarfon is a very difficult comparison. Taisvis and all the Rishonim talk about this, because over there by the Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza, the Gemara is going to soon bring psukim that will explain that in that case it has nothing to do with a suffix. Even if you know for a fact that he's a Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza, nevertheless, whatever Aveda he did, Bidi Eved, is all going to be kosher. Over here, we're discussing a situation of a suffix. Do we follow the suffix? Do we go with the chazakah of the person? Do we go with the chazakah of the mikveh? How is he bringing a raya from this case of Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza? It's a very, very difficult comparison. Okay, I'll leave it as a question, but I'm just saying it's not a pashta comparison. Amar Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva says, I'll bring you a comparison to another din. This is compared to someone that's bringing a carbon on the mizbeach, a kayin. And at a certain point, he finds out that he has a blemish and he's possible to do the aveda. What's the halacha here? Shavedase psula. If he has this mum, so then everything retroactively, all the aveda that he did before will all be possible. So now we have two things to compare to here. Amar Rab Tarfon, and Rab Tarfon says, Ata de misay lebalmum. You're comparing our case of the mikveh to a kayin balmum. Vani de misay leben grusha leben chalutza. And I'm comparing it to a kayin that was discovered to be a chalal. Nira lemidaime. Let's see which one it's more compared to. If it's logically more compared to that, so then we'll say the halach is like a ben grusha ben chalutza. And the mikveh here also, we should say that everything is tired. If our case is more similar to a balmum, so then the nenika balmum will pass like the balmum, where everything retroactively will be tameh. So Hizchor Rabbi Akiva began to explain why he's right that we have to compare it to a balmum, and he gave two svaras. He said, number one, mikveh psulei biyachid. By a mikveh, if just one aid comes along and says that a mikveh is pasul, the mikveh becomes pasul. What is this based on? By all isurim. There's a klal that an eid echad is neman for isurim. So if you have a mikveh, and this is a question of whether it's pasul or not, this is in the status of an isur, could you use it or not? You believe one aid. Ubalmum psulei biyachid. And when it comes to a balmum, one aid is also believed to say that this kain is a balmum. And that's going to be a main discussion that the Gemara is soon going to explain. Why is one aid believed to say that a kain is a balmum? But he says these two are compared. So therefore I use the balmum as a source for the mikveh. But I'm not going to prove from a kain to say that a kain is a ben grusha ben chalutza shepsulei b'shnayim. Because in order to make a kain, a ben karusha ben chalutza, to make him a chalal for this, you need two edim, which is also soon going to be explained in the Gemara. So that's one reason why Rabbi Akiva said we're going to compare the mikveh to the halacha of the Balmum. Davar acher, another pshat Rabbi Akiva said, mikveh psulei begufay. A mikveh, where's the source of the psul? It's in the mikveh itself. It's missing the water. Balmum psulei begufay. The psul of a kayin when he's a balmum, this is a psul in his body itself. So therefore, it makes sense to compare the two. Val yichiach ben grusha ben chalutza. There's no point to compare to the case of a kayin that's a chalal. Shepsulei ma'acherim. The psul is not in his body. The psul is caused by his mother, by his father that married a mother that's a grusha. So therefore, no reason to compare to that. The Gemara will explain that soon also. Now, Amalei Rab Tafan, after he heard all these reasons of Rabbi Akiva, he said, Akiva. Whoever separates from you, he's like separating from life. He accepted the reasoning of Rabbi Akiva. Okay, this is the Braisa. Now, here the Gemara explains how Rava proves from here that you can trust the words of an Eid Echad when it comes to a status of a person's wife, whether he's allowed to remain with her or not. You can trust the words of an Eid Echad. So the Gemara starts with the case of the Balmum. Hi Balmum shepsule biyachid heichidami. When it says over here that Rabbi Akiva said that you believe in Eid Echad to say that a kain is a Balmum, why are we relying on the words of an Eid Echad to say that a kain is a Balmum? If the kain himself is contradicting the words of the Eid Echad and saying, no, I'm not a Balmum, mi mehemet, would an Eid Echad be believed? Why would Eid Echad be believed to change the status of a kain? Eid Echad is only believed regarding Isurim, but not to say that a kain is a Balmum. Elo, so what must be the pshat of the Braise? The shasik. That the Eid Echad comes and says to a kain, you're a Balmum, and the kain is not arguing, the kain is quiet. And that's why, similar to all the halachas we learned before, when Eid Echad says something and the person is quiet, so then we believe the Eid Echad. Now, gabi ben grusha ben chalutza. Now, in a similar case, when it comes to saying that a kain is a ben grusha ben chalutza, what did it say in the Braise? The shasik, that even if the kain himself is quiet, and what did it say in the Braise? That a katani, mikveh psule biyachid, ubamum psule biyachid. When it comes to a mikveh, we trust 1/8 because it's a iser, and by a balmum, we trust 1/8 because the kain is being quiet. But va'al yichich ben grusha ben chalutza shepsulei b'shnayim. When it comes to a ben grusha ben chalutza over here, the Braise is saying that you must have 2 eidim for this, and that's even if the kain himself is quiet. Now, why is this? Because when it comes to ben grusha ben chalutza, this is something which is relevant not only regarding his avodah in the Beis Hamikdash. This is also relevant regarding a psul, regarding who he could marry. So since this is something which is relevant regarding who he could marry, over here it's similar to the concept of a davar shebe'erva that you have to have 2. So this is Rava's proof that when it comes to an issue which is related to marriage, a davar shebe'erva, you have to have 2. That's Rava's proof. Abai responds and says, no, lo'olam the kamak chishlei. Really, the case of this Braise is when it says that a yachid is believed to say that a kain is a balmum. What's the case? That the kain is saying, I'm not a balmum. Now your question was, if that's the case, why would the Eid Echad be believed if the kain is saying, I'm not a balmum? You would never believe the Eid Echad to change a person's status like this. The answer is because in our case, there's reason to believe the Eid Echad. Because the Eid Echad will say to the kain, you're arguing with me saying that you're not a balmum. Shlach achvi. Take off your garments and show me that you're not a balmum. I'm telling you, I know that you're a balmum. So the words that the Eid Echad are saying is very trustworthy here, because the Eid Echad would not say this because it's something that could be proven. So therefore, even if he's not going to take off his clothing, if the Eid Echad is saying so, we know that it's true. Now the Gemara explains, V'hainu diktani, this is also the basis of the second reason that Rabbi Akiva said why we would compare the case of the mikveh to the balmum. He said, mikveh psulei begufay. The mikveh is a psul in the mikveh itself. Ubalmum psulei begufay. And by the balmum, it's a psul in the body of the kain himself. So these are 2 things, that there's a psul in the guf of this thing itself, and therefore over here you can come and be mevada regarding the mikveh itself. Go inspect the mikveh itself, see if it has a hole, figure out, look at the mikveh itself, just like regarding a balmum, you can look at his body, you can look at the mikveh itself and see what's the story with it. But you can't prove from the psul of ben grusha ben chalutza, there's nothing you could inspect in the kain himself to see if he's a ben grusha ben chalutza. That has to do with the mother, with the marriage, and you're going to have to find edim that know what happened maybe 10 years before, maybe 20 years before regarding their marriage. That was the svara of Rabbi Akiva. Okay, well now the Gemara here just finishes off this inyan to bring the psukim the source of what it said before in the Braise, that if a kohen is found to be a cholol in the middle of his aveda, then it does not passel his aveda retroactively. But if he's found to be a balmum, it does passel his aveda retroactively. Says the Gemara, Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza Davidosik Sheira. This that it says here in the Braise that if a kohen is found to be a cholol, so the aveda that he had already done from before is all kosher. Minol, and what's the source for this? So the Gemara brings a few psukim. Omer Rav Yehuda Mashmol Damakra, the pasuk says, "V'ha'isa loyal lizarei achrav." That here, this is the pasuk that the Eibush speaks to Pinchas and says that he's going to be a kohen and his descendants will be a kohen. So when it says here lizarei achrav, what the Eibush is telling him is bein zera kosher, bein zera apostle. Whether your descendants will be kosher or apostle, all your descendants will be able to serve. That means b'di'evet. Once the aved is done, it's kosher. Avur the Shmuel, the father of Shmuel, said another source. Mehacha, the pasuk says, Baruch Hashem Cheloi, the Eibush benches his power. That's a simple pshat of Poel Yod of Tirtze, and the work of his hands will be accepted. So the Gemara here darshans Cheloi means afilu chulin shabai, even a kohen that's really a cholol and he did the aveda Tirtze, the Eibush will accept it. B'di'evet, once it's done, it's accepted. Rav Yana Yom Mehacha, a third pasuk, Ubasa la kohen ashiyeh b'yomim mehem. You will come to a kohen that will be in your times. What does this mean? Why does the pasuk have to say you come to a kohen in your times? Would you think that you go to a kohen that's not alive in your times? Obviously, you're going to a kohen that's in your times. Ella, these extra words are saying that kosher v'nischalo, that you go to any kohen in your times, any kohen that does your avodah, even a kohen that's a chalal, it'll be accepted. Now, on the other hand, balmum, davidosai psula, but if a kohen is found to be a balmum, how do I know that all the avodah he did before is pasul, minolan? Now, this is the conclusion of the previous pasuk that was quoted here before. So there it says that all the descendants, even a pasul, retroactively, the avodah will be kosher. But then the pasuk there says, L'chein emoir hineni noisen loy as brisi shalom, that I'm making a bond with Pinchas, brisi shalom. Now, how do you read the word shalom? Keshahu shalem. It should be read without a vav. Shalem, that he only has a bond with me if he's shalem, if he doesn't have a mum, if he's complete. V'loy keshu chaser, not if he has any blemish. So the Gemara asks, how could you darshan the word shalem without a vav? V'hashalem siv. It says shalem with a vav, which means peace, not to be complete without a mum. Rav Nachman, so Rav Nachman says, vav the shalem kitiyahi. You look in the Torah, you'll see that the vav has it's cut in the middle. The reason it's cut in the middle is because you're supposed to read it shalem without a vav. Or some Rishonim actually say you're supposed to read it shlim, which also means complete without a mum. So from here you see the Torah is saying that yes, you and all your descendants will be a kohen, but nevertheless only if they're tamim, shalem, not if there's a bal mum. Then retroactively all the avodah will be pasul.